Hey everybody, so I'm back. Okay, that was bad. I know it's been a really long time since I've even touched this channel. I've been really busy. Moved into a new place, been really busy at work. But, that's beside the point. So I'm going to get back into doing this YouTube channel, making sure we keep going on these videos and stuff. And I thought I'd start with this one. I had a model shoot where a bunch of us got together and, got some models and some makeup artists. And we shot, I don't know, long time. Most of the day, basically. We went up to the mountains and just did some shooting. A friend of mine brought his motorcycle, so that became a really good prop. Julia here, the model, is gorgeous. And Jynnette was the makeup artist on this. And I'll put their names and links and all that stuff in the description so that if anybody wants to contact either the makeup artist or the model, they can. And this is the shot that I'm gonna process, and we'll see how it turns out. So let's get started. I open it up. I shot it on my Canon 7D using my 70 to 200 lens. I was shooting it at 70 millimeter. It was kind of bright out, so I was able to shoot at ISO 100 at 1/200th of a second and f2.8 so I could get a good blur back in the behind her. And I really liked the shot. I think it turned out really nice, and let's see if we can make it just a little bit better. Alright, so the first thing I always do whenever I get a shot and put it into my computer is make sure that my lens corrections are on, because I feel like you should just always have lens corrections. And usually when I bring them into Lightroom, where I do most of my workflow, I have it set so that it automatically does the lens corrections all the time anyways, but when I bring it into Photoshop, it doesn't do it. So I go in there and make sure I enable that. Then I remove all chromatic aberrations, and that basically does that. I mean, it really does make a little bit of a difference. Fixes a little bit of the distortion and a little bit of the vignetting. Okay, so this I'm going to... It's kind of an interesting thing here, because I'm definitely going to go black and white with this shot. Just because, I don't know, I think it's going to be a great black and white, even though, the red lipstick and her green eyes are really, really beautiful, but I want to go black and white. Especially with this shot. I have a lot of really good headshots of her that are in color, but with the motorcycle and stuff, I think it lends itself to the black and white. But I still do my basic adjustments in Camera Raw and then bring it into Photoshop and do the black and white in Photoshop, either using Silver Efex Pro or just Photoshop. I've been really liking Silver Efex Pro and how easily it is to get really good black and whites, even though once I do it in Silver Efex Pro, I still do a whole bunch more in Photoshop itself. So let's get started before this video gets really long on me. I know I talk a lot, so let's get going. So first thing I'm going to do, I got pretty good focus on it. Where's my mind? Okay, there it is. And I can see she's got a couple of things that we're going to need to clean up, but we'll do that once we get into Photoshop. But let's see. I know I shot this in daylight. Let's see if that warms it up. I usually use cloudy, but in this case, she's already so warm, and the light was already so warm that it's getting too warm. So I'm going to go ahead and use daylight. Auto white balance is too cool if you look at it. I just don't like the way it looks, even though that might be... No, I mean, yes, that might be a little more realistic, but I tend to go warm all the time, so I like really warm. It just seems like a better image to me. Alright, exposure I think is kind of right on. I don't see anything blown out or anything really chopped off. Actually, I'm not going to do too much in Camera Raw this time because, well, the makeup artist did a really good job and the model's gorgeous, and I might add a little bit of clarity just to sharpen things up a little bit. Might be too much. I don't like to add too much clarity because I sharpen things anyways later on. Let's see. so do I need to do anything else? Like, I'm amazed. I'm gonna have to do very little in Camera Raw. Maybe add a little sharpening just because might be a little too sharp actually. Yeah, I don't like what that did. I'll sharpen it in Photoshop once I retouch it a little bit. Yeah, let's leave it at 25. Okay, so, and I'm going to show you a cool little trick for getting really great eyes. You know, eyes are very important in portrait photography, so this will be a cool one to show you on that because she's already got beautiful eyes, and we're just going to enhance them a little bit. Okay, so let's just open it up. I hold down Shift whenever I open up at a Camera Raw, so it opens it up as a smart object. You see this little icon right here? This is a smart object icon, and basically what it means is it's referencing an external file it's saved in Photoshop, but it's referencing an external file, so anything you add to it and stuff like that, it won't actually damage the original file. And it doesn't do... In this case, it's not going to be as useful because I'm going to turn it to black and white. I'm going to change it, so I probably won't be going back to the raw file. But if you were just going to do very basic adjustments, you could always go back to the raw file here. And if you just did like gradient layers and color layers and stuff like that, it would overall do all those color layers again. But in this case, it's not going to be that big a deal. The first thing I am going to do is just retouch her face a little bit. So I'm going to make a new layer. Hold on. Holding down one of these buttons. Okay, if you hold down Option while you hit New Layer button, it brings up the layer dialog box, and I like to do it that way because that way I can name my layer. And I'm going to call this layer Spot Removal. And it lets you at this point, if you want to have a color for the layer or a mode, lets you do all those things within the dialog box instead of just hitting New Layer, where it will just put a layer on there and it won't do anything. It won't let you name it until you double click it over there. So it's just kind of an easy step. All right, and the first thing I'm going to go into her face, and I like to work in this mode. I'm going to use the spot healing brush. I think it's one of the best brushes for spot healing. It's kind of effective that way, right? So I'm just going to remove some of these little, I guess pimples or whatever they are, little blemishes on her skin. And then maybe some of these real slight wrinkles. And it's kind of funny because some of these wrinkles, sometimes I feel like when you get a lot of makeup on here, it sometimes, you know, like the creases in your skin will crease that makeup, and actually it will show up even more than if you didn't have that crusty makeup on. So sometimes too much makeup is a little tough, but like I said, it's better than no makeup usually. So anytime you start, that's one thing I do want to say is the better the original starting image is, the better the final product's going to be. So, you know, if you can get a makeup artist and have her really work out this makeup, definitely going to have to crop this just a little bit because I don't like this right here. But, you know, like the makeup makes a big deal. Like, you know, that's why we use makeup artists and stuff like that. And then, of course, the model. So I'm just going to keep on removing some of these little blemishes that I see here and there. She's got like a little scar right there that I'm going to remove, and a little scar or a little bump on her nose right there. And she's got like a little mole right there that I'm going to remove. And also sometimes what I remove and what I don't remove also depends on the product I'm going to be using it for. So, you know, if it's a glamour shot or it's going to be in a magazine, I'll retouch a lot more than if it's just a regular portrait. Sometimes you don't want to get rid of a very specific mole or a very specific scar if they want to keep it in there. So definitely talk to your model and see what, or your whoever you're doing the shoot for, see if they want to be super clean or if they, you know, like some of their personal characteristics. You know, everybody has them. So, but with Julia here, she is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm just going to remove, just going to do as much as I can, just cleaning her up. We were shooting this as a glamour shot, and she's going to put it in her portfolio and stuff, so We just want to make sure it's really clean and beautiful. So, just going to get rid of this one strand of hair that's kind of annoying right down her face, but easy to clean up. Luckily, wasn't too difficult. Okay, so she's got a little blemish there, a little blemish there, a little blemish there, blemish there, blemish there. And here is one of those things that I was talking about, the makeup, where sometimes it shows up even more because of the makeup, the amount of makeup that's on the body. These creases right here, even though they are on her face, they are not this pronounced in on her regular, when she's, you know, not completely made up. So, you know, the makeup sometimes cleans up a lot, but it does have its flaws when you get this close to them. The funny thing is, when you look at her without being this specific on a photograph, you don't notice these things until you get in really close. You know, at the shoot, I don't remember even thinking or seeing those little creases. But once I get in here, I can see, you know, but like I said, real easy to remove. The spot healing brush is really great. And I'm using a pen, a Wacom pen. And I like to kind of use it in the direction of the crease I'm getting rid of, or the mark, or the hair strand, or, you know, the wrinkle, or whatever. So like, for example, this, I'm gonna go from up to down, kind of following that shape. Seems to work best that way, and I couldn't tell you why, but it's just I've just learned that from usage, and I'm still gonna add a little bit of overall kind of airbrushy makeup to her, but that got rid of most of any of the little spot removal things that I needed to get in there and clean up. That's great. She looks great. So, all right, so the next thing I'm going to do is holding down Option. I'm going to hit the new layer icon. It's going to bring up my new dialog box. And I'm going to call this Makeup. Now, this is the digital makeup. She's obviously got the analog or real makeup on, but I'm going to add just a little bit of, that was weird, it was a little bug, of makeup on her. So I'm using the regular brush and really soft brush. So way too big, but oops. Way too big. I'm going to make it a little smaller. And I don't use opacity. I leave my opacity always at 100% because I use flow. And let me just talk about the difference between there. Opacity is when you click and it puts down the entire amount. Actually, let me just show it to you, and I can show it to you with a hard brush, but let's say I was going to click and put down that much. See, that's 100% opacity with a hard brush. Okay. So if I lower the opacity to 50%, what's it going to do? It's just going to put that in there with 50% opacity. Okay, now let me show you the difference between that and flow. Flow it's kind of like if you think about it like an old school airbrush. If you click the button, it would just spray once, but if you kept going, it would keep spraying and it would keep building up on top of each other. So like if I just do one at 100%, well, it's just going to show the same thing. But if I were to lower the opacity to say 30 and I click it, it's going to do the same thing as if I was in opacity at 30 if I just click once. But if I click and hold, watch this. See, it kind of keeps adding and adding and adding, and it's just kind of, it flows more like a regular airbrush. But now, obviously that was a hard brush, but if I were to take a soft brush and now I do it, I can keep adding kind of on top of it, you know, over and over until I get to the maximum amount you can get to. So that's what I like to use, and of course I use it really low at 5%, 0.5%, because I just want a little bit of a coverage. So, and if you keep seeing me zoom in and out. I'm just using the Command plus and Command minus. Command plus zooms in, Command minus zooms out. It's just a quick way of zooming in. You can also do the, oops, which ones are they? I can never remember this one because I never used it, but there's a way where you can, I'll have to go back to that. I'll edit that part out. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of select a color from here and just add a little bit of digital makeup just to clean up any little spots or pores that you might be able to see. And I just kind of go in, select, and if holding down Option on the brush, it gives you the select tool. So you can select the color that's there and just kind of paint in wherever you want to. Like I like to usually paint a little bit underneath the bags of their eyes, even though she has hardly any, but you know, everybody does have a little bit. And I'm just applying, and what I like about this technique is it smooths out the skin as well. You know, we all have pores and we all have little indentations, and this kind of smooths it out. You just got to be very, very careful not to make her look like a porcelain doll unless you're going for a porcelain doll look. And trust me, I've seen a lot of porcelain doll looks. I tend not to try to go that far, but you see I'm going pretty far here, but I'm going to actually lower the opacity of this entire layer. So see, that's my makeup layer, and see how much of a difference it makes. It just cleans her up, it smooths her up just a little bit. And I usually don't go 100%. I'll usually go down to like 80% or around there, and it'll just clean up those. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at it. It'll just clean up. See how dark this is under her eyes, and I'm just lightening it up a little bit. Okay, and I'm also going to do the same. I'm going to add a little bit of makeup on her arm because we didn't put makeup on her arms. But, you know, it's just such a different look. So I just kind of want to maybe add a little bit here to smooth out her arm and make her look. I'm almost trying to like match her face with her skin, you know, because it's kind of interesting that, you know, we do these model shoots, and I guess I don't know, maybe some people do think about it, but I don't ever think of putting makeup on people's arms and people's, you know, but why not, right? You know, people have skin, and the skin goes all over your body, and we could, if we were going to do a shoot like this, why not put makeup on their arms and make it all look super clean and soft. And of course, you know, with Photoshop I can do that here, right? So there you go. It just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Gotta make sure you don't flatten things out though. Like I'm afraid I flattened it out a little bit, so I'm gonna go in and add a little bit of a darkness. Sometimes when you're not careful with your lights, if you add too much light and you remove the darks, it'll remove that roundness of those arms. So you just gotta be very careful not to flatten things out too much. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so I said I was gonna crop it, and it's kind of bugging me, so I'm definitely gonna crop it. I'm gonna use my crop tool and just go holding down Shift so that it keeps my proportion. Just kind of want to crop right. I don't like cropping too much, but she had like this little tusk above her head that I think this was gonna crop out better. Maybe a little bit more so that it's kind of a better crop. All right, I think that's gonna work out better. Okay, perfect. So now I have my makeup layer and my spot removal layer. See, this is one of those things where I was telling you, like she's got like a little mole here. Now, if this was a client where it's just a portrait for her or for her, you know, herself, I would leave that in there because that's part of her character. If it's for a magazine or something like that where you just want her to look completely glamorous, I would probably remove it. With her, I'm going to leave it in there. I think it adds a little bit of character. You know what? I'm not. It's a little distracting. I keep looking at it, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. So it's kind of one of those judgment calls where you need to see if you want to remove it or leave it in. With her, I think she's just so gorgeous that I'm just going to leave her super clean. Okay, so I think that's as far as I'm going to go with just cleaning and spot removal and stuff like that. And the rest is basically going to be, I'm going to turn it into black and white and clean up the black and white. See, I'm removing a couple of her moles from her arms and stuff. Okay, so let's see. Just going to clean up some of her moles. Just because I can, you know? Okay, so there we go. What's next? All right, let's bring up Silver Effects Pro and go from there. So I open it up in Silver Effects Pro. I have a palette on my other monitor that you guys won't be able to see, but basically I'm just hitting the Silver Effects Pro button. And it's gonna bring it into, ooh, I guess I gotta do an update. Okay, but not now. All right, so now it brings it into Silver Effects Pro. There has some presets over here, which are usually a good starting point. I will definitely usually click a preset and then go on to this side where you make your specific adjustments. And see, like this is just neutral and everything is too perfectly gray. There's no lights and darks place, so I'm definitely gonna look for something a little more, I don't think I'm gonna use high structure with a model like this. I use the high structure one sometimes when I'm doing pictures of dogs or something that has a lot of like detail that you want to enhance. But with her, you want to keep her a little soft because it's a portrait. So I'm probably going to use some of these full dynamic ones. Yeah, see, okay, so basically this one, full dynamic smooth, it lightened up her skin and her and darkened the background a little bit, which is good because it's going to bring her forward a little bit. And you know, your eyes always go to the lightest part, so I think this is a good start. Just want to kind of look through all these and see if I find, now see, I don't like the way that did. I'm definitely going to start with this one. Okay, so this is where I'm going to start. And then I'll go over here and I can adjust certain things. What I love about Silver Effects Pro, it has filters. It's kind of like if you put a filter on your lens, you know, like the old school, a red filter to darken the skies and stuff like that. You can add these here. Let's see. Look at her lips. If I put a red filter, it really lightened them up, you know, and as I go, it's going to darken them up. The green filter really kind of darkened it up. Actually, that's not kind of horrible. I'm kind of liking that, but it's a little too much. Let's see what the blue filter is going to really destroy this. These filters are kind of lighting her face a little too much. So I'm going to use that. What I am going to do is, this arm is a little hot. It's way too bright. So I'm going to add a control point here. And I'm going to lower the brightness just a little bit here so that that arm isn't screaming so much. So I definitely want to keep the focus on her face. So, okay, so that's where we're going to start. And then another thing about Silver Effects Pro, it has these film types. They're kind of fun to play with. I mean, if you ever shot film, you can kind of try to match some of the films that were out there, but you know, some of them are really, really kind of too contrasty and stuff like that. I tend not to use those too much. The one I tend to use a lot is this Agfa APX Pro 100. It just adds a little bit of contrast without adding too much, and it's kind of one I like. And that's, I'm probably not going to do too much. I'm not going to do any toning or vignetting here. I can do all that in Photoshop. I think that's where I'm going to leave it in Silver Effects Pro. So when you render it out, it brings it into your Photoshop document as its own layer. So there we go. We got a layer. We have our original layer. We have our spot removal makeup layer. And then we have basically a composite, turns it into the black and white with the sets you've put on there. So there we go. Where am I? I'm at 23 minutes. Oh my God. So what am I going to do here? I like what it did. It did darken her face just a little bit, so I'm going to lighten her face a little bit with a curve. I'm going to add a curve. I'm going to push the curve up a little bit. No, I'm not going to add too much contrast. I'm just going to push the curve up just a little bit. And I mean, a curve is an overall effect, as you can see it, but it's got a mask right here, which I'm going to use this mask, and I'm going to fill the mask to black to just kind of, it's not black, makes sure that the mask is not touching anything. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to use my white layer, and I'm going to, I always keep my brush at 5% flow. I mean, it's pretty much. And I'm just going to brush in right above her face. And see, I can click the 0 to go to flow 0. And I can make sure it all comes in, right? So all I did was lighten her face there, see? Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into her lips, And I do want to darken her lips just a little bit. So I use curves kind of almost for everything, especially in black and white. But I'm going to darken this time, pushing down on them. Again, it's an overall effect. Oops. It's an overall effect, but I'm going to make the mask black. And then I'm going to come in here with a white brush. The white brush, and I'm just going to paint it. Oh, I like, at this point I can do flow 0 because it's just going to be on this. My computer's lagging a little bit, so bear with me here. Okay, so yeah, see that darkened her lips up a little bit. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enhance her eyes a little bit. And there's a couple ways to do this. The first, and I usually do a lot to the eyes because I think they're very important, but I'll do a curve, and I'll lower the darks a little bit and raise the whites a little bit. So it's basically I'm making a contrast curve. See, I'm pushing the darks down just a little bit and the lights up, and basically as you increase the darks and the lights, it's going to contrast the image. And then of course I'm going to fill it all to black, and then paint white just over the eyes because I want to add contrast, but only in the eyes. Okay, so, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks for these eyes. Computer's really lagging, I don't know why. I might have to pause and come back, but maybe I'll make this a 2-part video if I get to. Yeah, I'm definitely going to make this a 2-part video because I'm already at 26 minutes. Part 2 will be when I hit 30 minutes. But okay, so the next layer I do, in holding down Option, I'll make it a eye shine layer because I shine. Sorry. Alright, so basically what I'm going to do is I make a layer and I'm going to put it on overlay. Oops. Overlay. Hello. Overlay. And then I'm going to paint. And again, should be at 5% flow. That's where I like to be. And I'm just going to paint a little bit of light into her eye. And right on the hot spot, right there. So, as if I back out, you'll see that it just adds that, like, boing! Caught some light in her eye, but don't go too far. I'm bringing down the opacity a little bit to lower the effect. So it's not too much. Okay. Cool. That's looking pretty good. Wow, she's looking great. The next thing I want to do, actually I'm probably going to do this in one video because I'm almost done here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add I add highlights to their eyes, to her hair, sorry. Oh, I didn't name. Okay, so hair highlights. And again, I do it the same way. I just make a layer, put it on overlay, and paint white into it. You'll see that I do a lot of stuff just painting it in because this is just kind of the way I work. I'm not, and she's got like a hot spot here, but I'm going to paint in a little bit of light in there. I kind of like light streaks in people's hair and shines in people's hair and stuff. And when I finish doing this, you'll see I'll bring up I'll do a before and after, and it just, with her hair, it just adds a little bit. You can also do darks. You could just switch your brush to black with X, and then, you know, paint in some darks. And I just like adding a little life to people's hair. You know, so it just, instead of, sometimes people's hair can get a little flat. This will fix that. I'm sure she's going to hate me because I darkened in her roots a little bit. You know, they don't always like that. I think it looks better. Okay, so here we go. And then I'll go before and after on her hair. See, I just changed the shape a little bit, and it basically added a little contrast and a little life. Here's a before and after. And it's just a little trick, basically. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a high pass sharpen layer. And the problem with high pass sharpen and models like this and portraits is it tends to sharpen everything, right? So it sharpens every single little one of these little noise layers and little blemishes and all that stuff it'll sharpen. So you gotta be very careful with it. And I only use it in certain areas, like I like doing the hair and the eyes and the lips. But I'll show you what I mean. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a new layer, holding down Option so that it brings it up. and call it high pass sharpen. Enter. And then put that layer on overlay. I just messed up. Okay, let me restart that. Actually, the first thing you got to do is merge all your layers into one layer. So, quickest way to do that is holding down Command Option E. Command Option E will merge all layers. Merge all of these layers are now merged into a new layer, basically. See? So this layer is a copy of all the merged layers. So now I'm going to call this high pass sharpen. High pass sharpen. And it's just a filter. Go to filters. Where is it? It's on other, high pass. And basically what it does, it creates a layer, so you can see it here. It outlines things and it creates contrast. Radius of 1.5. I wouldn't go too much farther than 1.5. I like to build things up. So you do that, and then you put this on overlay or soft light. And let me go before and after and see how it just sharpens everything up. Problem is, if you look at it, it also sharpened. Well, it also sharpened all of her noise in her face. You know, so like any little blemish you have or any little detail you have, it'll sharpen. So I don't use it too much for the entire overall. So what I do is I hold down Option and make a new mask on that layer, and that makes a black mask. Holding down Option while you hit mask makes a black mask instead of a white mask. And then again, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paint in white where I want it to sharpen. And I want that effect on her eyes. This is the trick I was talking about, the eyes. It really just kind of sharpens those eyes and it brings them out. So there's certain things that you want sharpened. Like I like sharpening eyes. I like a high pass layer on eyes, on hair. So I'm painting it in. I'm painting white into that mask on her hair to really kind of sharpen those hair strands, and you know it'll just kind of look cooler, nice and sharp and stuff. Okay, so let's see how much of an effect that got. Let's see her eye. Oops, went too far back. Let's see her eyes. Move in here. Yeah, see, and you can always take this, duplicate it, and it'll sharpen even more. I think that went too far, so I'm not going to do that. Okay. So there, you know, now her eyes are really kind of looking at us. They're really popping. Her eyes are really, really strong. Let me see if I see anything else that I need to do just to finish up here. There is this kind of spot right here that's kind of light. So I'm going to make a layer and just kind of darken right spot. And basically at this point, I'm just going to brush with black, 5% flow. Now this is obviously a black and white, and so this is easier, but if it was a color image, you can add a little bit of darkness or color or anything. So I'm just going to add a little black here to kind of tone down that hot spot until it doesn't bug me as much anymore. And that's not too bad. That's good. See how much of a difference that makes? Just, you know, your eyes tend to go to the lightest spots on the picture, so you want to make sure she's the lightest spot. Okay, I think we're pretty much done with this image. Yeah, I don't see anything else to do except maybe a before and after, so I'm going to make a... okay. New group from layers, and I like to call it Retouching. So here's a before and after. And this is going to be hard to tell because it was color to black and white, but there's, let's see, F, Control 0. So here's a before and after. Let me just show you the entire image. There we go. Before, after, before, after. Again, this was a shot where we had everything kind of set up. We had, how did we shoot it? We had, you know, we had her sit on a motorcycle. The light was coming in from the right through the trees a little bit. And then what we had is we had a reflector reflecting the sunlight back onto her face. And that's just kind of real easy way to shoot it. Yeah, and I think that's it. I'm going to continue doing these videos. I got a whole bunch of more Actually, there's a couple more from this shoot that I want to show, and then we'll go on to other new things. So stay with me, and hopefully I can get these out pretty quickly, and talk to you later. All right, bye.